If you're watching this, it means you're considering doing your first track day. You probably have a lot of questions, and hopefully I can answer most of them here. I've been doing track days on and off for about 10 years, and I've worked for a track day organization called Let's Ride Track Days since 2014. Since then, I've been asked a lot of questions, and they tend to be the same type of questions by people who like the idea of doing a track day but don't know where to start. So there's a few misconceptions about doing track days that I think are kind of important to address. Not indress. One of them being that you have to be fast to do a track day. That's like wanting to be fit before you go to the gym. So track days are not just for fast people, they're for people who want to improve their skill. They're also for people who already have some road riding experience but want to take their skill set to the next level. And what better place to do it on a closed circuit where you don't have to worry about squirrels, cars, pedestrians, rocks, police, whatever. Another one being that you have to be an aspiring racer to do track days. It doesn't matter whether you intend to race or you just want to get better. Track days are really for anybody. Anybody who rides, who wants to get their skill set to that next level, it's for you. If you're worried about being the slowest rider on the track, don't worry about it, because pretty much everybody else out there feels the same way if they've never done a track day before. What's cool about track days is most of them are broken up into a 3-group format, meaning there's advanced group, intermediate group, and novice. If you're brand new to the racetrack, no experience, you're gonna sign up for novice group, and you'll be with riders just like you, either with very little track experience or no experience at all. So a question that I'm often asked is, what kind of bikes are allowed at the racetrack? And the answer is pretty much any bike that's in good working condition, which means no oil leaks. So if you don't have a sport bike, don't sweat it, because I've seen everything from adventure bikes, dual sports, cruisers, adventure bikes, sport touring bikes, you name it. As long as it's working, you're welcome. First thing that you're gonna have to do before planning your track day is find out which track you wanna ride. In my area, for example, I have 3 tracks to choose from. So you're gonna go to their website. Typically they'll have a list of events or a calendar that'll tell you which track day providers are going to be hosting on which day. From there, you're gonna go to the track day provider's website. Make sure to check out their frequently asked questions section, or my first track day, or however they have it listed, but make sure you read everything you can on their website, because it'll answer almost every question that you have about gear requirements, bike requirements, etc. Let's go over the gear that you're gonna need. First thing will be a full face helmet. This is what I choose to ride in. I love my HJC, and I also like Venom because I'm kind of a nerd. At the very least, it's going to need to be DOT and or Snell certified. You're gonna have to check with your track day provider. Some will have different requirements. Another piece of gear that you're gonna need is riding gloves. They don't have to be full-blown race gloves like this, but this is what I choose to ride in because it has a lot of hard armor on it, and I've crash tested these before and they've protected my hands really well. What you will need at the very least is a gauntlet type glove, and if you're not sure what that is, all it is just an extra piece of leather that comes from the wrist up a couple of inches to protect your wrist in the event of a slide. You don't want your sleeve riding up, but if it does, this gauntlet will protect your wrist from getting rashed up. Next, you're gonna need some riding boots. And just like with the gloves, they don't have to be full-blown race boots like these, but I chose these for the same reason that I chose the gloves. They offer really good crash protection, a lot of hard armor, and a lot of abrasion resistance. And unfortunately, I've crash tested those as well, but they did the job, so I continue to purchase them. But what you do need at the very least is a set of boots that are gonna come up above your ankle for the same reason as the gloves. In the event that you slide, you don't want any exposed skin between the bottom of your pant and the top of your boot. So the last thing that you're gonna need is a suit. Most track day providers are gonna require that it be leather, but if for some reason you don't wanna wear leather, go to their website or send them an email, and there are some exemptions in some occasions. At the very least, it's gonna need to be a 1 or a 2-piece suit. And if you're not familiar with those terms, a 1-piece is exactly what it sounds like. It's just like a jumpsuit. You pull it up over and you have one zipper that goes up the center. A 2-piece is a jacket and a pair of pants that can zip at least 3/4 of the way around. The reason why you want that is, again, in the event of a slide, you don't want anything pulling, like your jacket, your sleeves. You don't want them pulling up and having any exposed skin to the asphalt and end up looking like beef jerky. There's one last piece of gear that usually isn't required, but I highly recommend it, and that's a back protector. If you haven't seen one of these, it's basically a hard piece of plastic. It's made out of other materials now too, but it offers some really good impact resistance. You wear it under your suit or under your jacket, and it offers also some whatever this means when you bend the wrong way. I'll think of it later. Hyperextension protection. Yes! That's pretty much it for gear. So let's go into the garage and we'll talk about how to prepare your bike for a track day. All right, we're inside my garage now. We're taking a look at my FZ09. This is my track bike. This is what I use when I'm just doing track days. I'm coaching. I could ride this thing all day long and have a really good time on it. So if you take a look here, you can see my horrible taping job. The reason why my lights are taped up is because that's one of the requirements. You'll have to tape up your headlight and tape up your tail light. Technically, the blinkers are also supposed to be taped up, but for the purposes of this video, I just taped up the headlight and tail light. Taking a look at the front of the bike, you can see I did another horrible taping job. In addition to the lights, you'll also want to tape up your mirrors or just ditch those things altogether. I would strongly recommend just removing them if you have the means to. In the event that you do crash, that's one less thing that you have to repair or replace. So ditch them if you can. Zooming in on the rear wheel here, you can see that I got some black tape down there, and that's to tape up the wheel weights. That's another requirement. The reason why is because if those things should fly off and hit you or hit somebody else, it could be a bad day. So electrical tape won't suffice. You're definitely gonna need duct tape, something very sticky. I use Gorilla Tape just because I definitely don't want those things flying off. Let's talk about tire choice really quick. Most people would assume that slicks are probably the best choice of tire for track riding, and honestly, that's not the case. I would say for the average intermediate to beginner level rider, it's kind of a waste of money because these things require that you get them up to a certain operating temperature. Otherwise, they start shredding. I opt for something more like this. This is a Dunlop Q4. This is kind of one of my go-tos, this and a Pirelli SC3, because these tires heat up super quickly, offer a ton of grip, and don't require warmers, which is my favorite part. It's one less thing you gotta worry about. While we're on the topic of tires, do you need a slick or a Hypersport? Absolutely not. Pretty much your tire has to be 80% or newer. I don't know how you would gauge that. Just take a look at your wear bars. Mine are here. These tires are, I could still get another track day or two out of them. The center's got plenty of tread on them, but it's the sides that you gotta worry about. These tires in particular have very shallow tread that seem to wear out very quickly, and the wear bars are closest to where I use my throttle as I'm accelerating, so that part always wears out the fastest. But whatever tire you have on your bike is probably gonna suffice as long as it's 80% or newer. And one of the more important maintenance items that you should take a look at before you do in your track day is your chain tension. Make sure that it's also lubricated, properly adjusted, and check underneath the bike and make sure you don't have any oil leaks or anything like that. You don't have to safety wire the bike, but you definitely got to make sure that there's nothing dripping from it. All right, last but not least, make sure you do what my friend calls the dummy check. That's where you go over all your nuts and bolts. You make sure you haven't missed anything, especially if you've just done maintenance. Go over that a second, even third time to make sure that there's no bolts that you didn't put on or that there's nothing that's come loose since you've done your maintenance. In addition to the gear that you need and how to prepare your bike, there's a couple more tips and tricks that I think might be useful for some, obvious for others. But one of them is to check the weather. In our area, for example, it tends to be 90, 95, 100 degrees on a pretty regular basis. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And what that would mean is make sure you have stuff like sunscreen, you have shade, whether it be a hat, a canopy, and in some cases you can rent a garage, which is killer. Split it up between a couple of friends, it ends up being pretty cheap. Water, make sure you hydrate. I can't stress this part enough because it's very easy to get dehydrated when you're at the track, you're in your leather suit. A lot of times you don't realize how much you're sweating. So electrolytes, embarrassingly, that's something that I didn't know that you're supposed to replenish. There was a couple years there where I couldn't get enough water, and I figured out the reason why is because I was losing electrolytes and I wasn't replenishing them. So I like to use Liquid IV. There's a ton of other brands out there now, but that's the first one that comes to mind. That's the one that I use the most just because it's readily available. I mean, you can get it pretty much anywhere. So you're gonna need a place to sit, so make sure you have a chair. Also, make sure that you have some food with you. Again, some of these are pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised what people forget. Some tracks will have a snack bar or a cafeteria that you can go to, but I like to bring my own food. Make sure you make a list of everything that you're gonna need and check it off as you go along, because it's the worst feeling in the world when you're an hour away from the house and you realize that you forgot the key to your bike, or you forgot your water, or forgot your food. When you arrive at the track and you're not sure what to do next, make sure you talk to a staff member. That's exactly what they're there for, is to help you. So whether it be how to register, where to tech your bike, where to get food, things like that. Or even on the racetrack, if you want somebody to show you around, you're not there on your own. All right, that about wraps it up for that video. So let me know if you think there's anything I missed or there's anything you want addressed. Let me know in the comments. And if there's another video topic that you want me to address, I can do that as well. I'm about to go test ride the new RS660, and I'll probably be making a video on that coming up soon. So thanks for watching.